Welcome back to the Yukon Adventure, everybody. Today we're going to get started on stage 1 of the ore sorting center contract, and just like the old mines contract, we'll have a lot of cargo that we need to deliver, and also 2 cabins to the cabin zone 1. We got a lot of work to do and some big trucks to do it with. Let's get started. First thing we're going to do is jump in the P16 and get this truck turned around. We need to head down to the cabin crafting zone where we've left some materials that we brought over from Big Salmon Peak. We'll get loaded up and head over to the ore sorting center and get our first load delivered. We'll need to bring the P12 down as well, so we might as well pull it along with us and save ourselves an extra trip. On a previous episode, we had trouble hooking up to that service trailer with the winch out of the back of the 8-slot trailer, and a few of you in the comments mentioned that it was probably because of how far away from the truck that it was. So for science, we're going to try this again and see if we can't get that truck hooked up to bring it down. I think if I pull the truck up here off to the side, I should be able to hook up to it from the 8-slot trailer. And it looks like I can. Alright, so that's how we're going to do it from now on, whenever we need to pull something behind this trailer. Heading back out of here, it's kind of nice to have that P12 behind us, just in case we have any trouble getting over these boulders. That truck can give us a little push and help get us along our way. This will be the last time we've got to bounce over these boulders with the P16, thankfully. Even though I like driving up here in this part of the map, I gotta admit, I'm happy to be done with it. We're moving right along with the Yukon region. We only have a few major contracts left to do, and then we'll be moving out of here. So the end is in sight. Let's leave the P12 up here on the top while we make this corner. And then we'll just drive it around. And like before, I'm going to pull the front of it right up along the side of the trailer, and we should be able to winch to it. Yep, okay, so that's working. That's our new process. Driving down this mountainside, for some reason, even though we're going downhill, it really slows this truck down. That blue snow is some nasty stuff though. I'm trying extra hard to be careful with the P12 back there. I don't want to flip that thing over, that's for sure. And I don't really want to damage it up either. So just pay attention to where it's driving if you're doing this. And then when we get out to the highway, I'm just going to drop it and leave it. It'll be too difficult to pull behind us going around this corner. Let's head over to the cabin crafting zone and we'll get loaded up. I believe we left the metal beam and some other cargo over here that we can utilize. We'll have to check the storage zone and see what's in there. So first thing we'll do is put a metal beam on the front, and then we'll get a couple metal rolls and some consumables and finish it off with 2 wooden planks. Getting turned around with the P16 is a little more difficult than the P12 because it doesn't like to jackknife as easily. So just make sure you pay attention to how you do that when you go through there. And then we're going to just take the tracks back. I don't really want to drive through that swampy bottom. It's just so slow. The The P16 should be able to make it down the tracks without any issue. Once we get to the railway station, we can top off on fuel before heading out of here. We're getting kind of low, about 1/3 of a tank. And then I'm going to head out the back side of the parking lot here and take that little trail that goes through the trees. There's some big rocks in here, and you know the P16 doesn't like the rocks. But if you just try to keep your momentum, you shouldn't have too much of a problem. There's also some winch points. If you do get hung up, you can help pull yourself through. Okay, we made it through there. Now we're just going to follow the side of the tracks all the way down to the fuel station. It's a little lopsided on the side here, but the P16 has a pretty wide wheelbase, so it shouldn't be too much of a risk. And then you might need to use a tree to pull the front of your truck over the top side of the tracks when you're getting over here to where we need to turn off. Not having all-wheel drive, those front tires, they like to just slide straight forward down the tracks. Coming out the other side, there is a pretty steep ditch. You might want to hit it at a little bit of an angle. That seems to help. And now we're on the tarmac. We should be able to cruise from here without any real issues. The paved road pretty much ends right when you get to the ore sorting center, so hauling cargo in from this side of it is actually quite a bit easier than coming from the garage. Everything from that direction is nothing but swampy mud. And now that we're here, we're just going to pull up off to the right, try to keep this truck a little bit out of the way, and we'll get everything turned in. Let's jump back into the P12 on the side of the hill, and we'll bring that down and grab another 8-slot trailer. Now if you're playing hard mode, you probably left your trailer down here at the railway station when we hauled that coil tubing trailer up to the top of the mountain, so you can just find wherever you left it and get hooked back up to it. In this case, we're just going to run over to the trailer store and repurchase it. Once again, don't forget to get topped off with fuel as you're going through here. I'm also going to repair this truck. And then that trailer has been a little bit of a thorn in my side, sticking out like that. So I'm just going to pull it back a little bit and get it out of the way. That should be a little better. Let's repurchase that 8-slot and then we'll get loaded at the warehouse. Okay, and just like before, I'm going to pull up here to the right and back in there just to make it a little bit easier to leave after we're loaded up. Although it seems I've forgotten how to back a trailer up in my absence, we'll take another shot at this. There we go. Alright, let's grab one concrete block and make sure we have room for both metal beams, 2 consumables, and then we're just going to throw a metal roll in there. We won't need the metal rolls for this stage of the contract, but we will need them for the second stage, so we might as well bring them with. The P12 seems like it handles these rocks through here just a little better. Having all-wheel drive to pull the front tires over them helps. And then just like before, we're going to follow the tracks all the way down. The P12 has a nice wide wheelbase just like the P16, so I'm not too concerned about it tipping over on the side of these tracks. Shouldn't have any problems with that. Although I can definitely feel the weight of this cargo. It's pulling pretty slow with this thing right now. But we're gonna head through the trees, take a slight angle on the approach coming out of here. And even though it's trying to power out, the P12's not giving up, and it made it up over the top. We've made it to the tarmac. Let's head over to that ore sorting center. This is going to be the last actual real big contract that we work on, and we'll complete stage 1 of it today. But once we get finished with stage 2, the only thing we really have left is the 3 conveyor belts after that. And although they do require some materials, it's not quite as extensive as these, so they should go fairly quickly. And then we'll finish the region off with the final contract hauling those rock trailers out to the factory in Big Salmon Peak. Now that we're here, we can get this stuff delivered, and we're going to jump into the Dairy Longhorn and make a trip back over to the cabin crafting zone in Big Salmon Peak. We left some materials over there in storage. We're going to go load them up and bring them over here. Every time I've had an extended break from driving the Dairy Longhorn, it takes me a good while to get used to the steering again, or the lack thereof, I should say. This thing turns so slow, and the turning radius is so big. I find myself running into everything while I'm getting used to it again. This time when we go by the maintenance trailer, I'm actually going to dump some fuel into it. Since we have fuel over in Big Salmon Peak, I should only need about a quarter tank to get over there. That'll give us a bigger surplus in that trailer, just in case we need it towards the end of the region. We will be coming by here again. This will be our last trip into Big Salmon Peak, so we might as well use up the resources we have sitting over here. Ah, that old feeling of cruising down the highway in Big Salmon Peak, it's all coming back to me now. Those were some good times. Perfect, we made it. We can get this thing repaired and refueled, and then we'll get loaded up. We have 1 brick and 4 wooden planks in storage, so now we've got everything loaded, and when we take this over there, we won't have to come back over here again for any materials. You know, in all reality, this storage zone over here really isn't that far away from where we're working, and sometimes having it in the other map can make it so that you don't think about it at all really, but it's a good place to store stuff and utilize for the contracts on Flooded Foothills. It doesn't take long to get over there at all. Now that we're back, I'm going to make absolutely sure I drive to the right going through this dip. As we know, the dairy gets its front bumper smashed on the ground there. Been there, done that. And we're going to take the trip down the railroad tracks pretty much all the way to the ore sorting center. This truck doesn't really have any use going beyond the ore sorting center, as the mud there is so deep, it doesn't perform very well going through it. It's not that it can't get through there, it's just really slow. But it cruises right along on the side of these tracks. Taking a little damage, but I'm just going to leave it in high. I don't want this thing to get hung up on anything. And the previous episodes have been full of such slow driving, it's kind of nice to get out and cruise again. And the dairy is good for that. It does have a hard time getting up this hump here, back onto the highway by the fuel station. So make sure you take that at a slight angle to get that front bumper over it. If you're using this truck. And a short trip down the highway, we're almost there, and we'll be ready for the next trip. So we'll get these 4 wooden planks turned in, and we'll save the bricks for the next stage. From here we're going to jump into the Paystar. We're going to bring this truck and the ANK with us. We'll need to load up a metal beam, and I have a decent plan in place for that. So let's head down to the bottom of the mountain and I'll show you what we're going to do. There's some metal beams out in the wild we can find. These guys are having a little bit of a struggle getting through this snow. I don't know why. It didn't seem like it did the last time we came through here. They'll make it through. It just seems like it's taking a little longer. Especially at this spot at the end here. It really slowed me down. I'm going to pull the Paystar out front for the rest of the trip. The ANK has all-time diff lock, so pulling it behind is a little bit of an advantage, since you don't have to be in it and put it in low gear to engage the diff lock. It should help out. Doesn't seem like our duo of trucks is having any issue getting through the mud though. They're doing all right. Once again, we'll just drive past the maintenance trailer. We can get fueled up when we get down to the railway station. just take the tracks over there like we have been. This is definitely the quickest way to get there. Okay, we made it. Let's get these things refueled. Then we're going to just park them off to the side for a moment. On episode 3, we left the Step 310 sitting over at the fuel station. We're going to jump in it for the first time since the beginning of this region. And we might as well use it. So we're going to head back across the highway and take this back road. This time we're going to cross the tracks and follow the trail all the way up into the mountains. There's some metal framing up here that we can go deconstruct. So there's some bricks up here at the top. We're not going to need those just yet, so we'll drive past them and follow this trail further up. The Step 310 does such a good job off-roading, even with its smaller tires. It's a pretty impressive little truck. Just up ahead there you can see the metal framing. We can collect 2 metal beams from this. So instead of driving them back down, we're just going to drive up to the edge of the cliff and throw them over with the mini crane. These boulders are a little bit tricky to get over the top of. Doing it this way is going to save us having to drive down that uneven rock road and take the risk of flipping over. So just hang them over the edge and let them fly. Now we'll just back up and rinse and repeat, and we'll have 2 metal beams at the bottom of the hill. Good job. Thanks, little buddy. Let's back the step up and we'll just park it up here for now. We can jump into the Paystar and we'll use the mini crane to get these loaded up. The beams are just around the corner. Since the A&K doesn't have a mini crane, we'll get that loaded up with this truck as well. We're not going to need the second metal beam for this stage of the contract, but it's always good to have a truck prepared for later use. And if we do decide to turn it in with a different truck, we can always run over to the cabin crafting zone and utilize the storage area there to transfer it. Alright, let's head out of here. We're going to take that back road over there just like before. You'll have to be quite a bit more careful with the Paystar, as these big boulders are a lot bigger in comparison to this truck, and it's not the most stable thing. And in fact, I'm not even going to follow the side of the tracks all the way over there. I'm going to go around this swamp instead. It's quite a bit muddier, but it's definitely a lot safer. Now that we made it to the highway, It's pretty much just smooth cruising from here. It's times like this when I'm glad that I usually run the high range gearbox. I like to cruise. Okay, we're starting to get a truck parking lot going on here, but we'll get this one turned in. And the only thing we have left is 2 consumables and 3 concrete blocks. We'll need to use the Royal for this, but if you remember when we completed the old mines contract, we left the Royal over at the cabin crafting zone, and the fuel is pretty low on it. So we're going to take the F750 over there and get it fueled up. It's kind of a long trip, not horrible, but the F750 should make pretty quick work of it. We're going to go straight down the mountainside, so that should cut a lot of time off. Although driving across all of these boulders with this truck is definitely going to bounce around. I guess it would probably be a good idea to be careful not to flip over. As you can see, this thing is bouncing. And just when I thought I was done, it's gonna bounce some more. I'm gonna get topped off with fuel one last time as we go past the White Western Star. That tanker is getting kind of low, but we'll really only need to refuel off of it one more time coming up here. So we should have enough in there for that. Let's go straight past the old mines. And we can take a left over here and head down the mountainside a little ways. Just be careful, it's kind of at a lean to the side. And then I kind of started to lose control going through here, so I ended up turning downhill just to make sure I didn't roll. But this section straight in front of me is actually a zigzag trail that you can take down the hill. It's pretty much the same as that one that we left the watchtower on episode 1, and we took that road down. It's bad coming up, but it's kind of cool going down. We're not going to take it though, we're going to go through the trees just a little bit further, and it comes out right at the cabin zone. So let's get the Royal refueled, and we'll jump back into it. It's been a little while since we've driven this truck. But we're going to head out of here and go down to the warehouse where we can find consumables and cement. We'll need the cement to craft the concrete blocks. And it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so 3 cement will give us 3 concrete blocks. Try staying to the right when you leave this cabin area, because this is really muddy through here. And at least on the right, it's not quite as bad. And there are some trees to help out. We'll follow the shoreline all the way down to where we can cross the river by the logging station. There's one last deep mud puddle through here that we need to get through, and then we should be good. When you're crossing the river from this direction, you do have to be careful that the current doesn't flip your truck over. It kind of pushes you to the side a little bit. But once you make it out the other side, it should be pretty easy to head up there from here. If you remember when we came through here doing all the logging, you'll remember that this is a bad road. but the Royal doesn't seem to have too much of an issue with it. There's also plenty to winch through there, so if you have troubles, don't be afraid to throw one out. But once you get up to the top, it's pretty firm. We're almost there, we just got to get around this rock bend. And I'm going to hug the water, stay out of that deep mud. And right up at the top is the warehouse. So the first thing I'll do is load up 3 cement to get that heavier cargo on my drive axles, and then we'll finish it off with 2 consumables. Let's get turned around. From here we got to head to the concrete production plant, which is just past the garage. Surprisingly, the Royal does a pretty decent job up this road, even though we know this road is a bad one. It gets through there without any real issues. And then just try to stay in the grass if you can. It'll help quite a bit. And now that we're back to the pavement, we can just cruise past the garage parking lot. Right out the other side is the highway that heads up to the concrete plant. Nice, easy road for us. Let's get these turned in and we'll craft those blocks. Okay, let's head back over by the garage, and we're going to have to take that deep muddy road all the way back down to the ore sorting center. I'm going to pull through the garage and replace this truck. The Royal can get this job done, but it's going to take a really long time to get through there. It's just not quite as powerful as it needs to be. So I'm going to pull out the Taiga. I've got the balloon tires on it. This will be the first time we've used anything like this in the region, and I promise you, even though the Taiga is quite a bit more powerful than the Royal, it's still going to be a challenge to get through here. So we'll start our journey up the road. It's going to be a muddy one. When you get up here a ways, you probably remember from before, we're going to take this shortcut that goes through the trees. It goes right up by the wood framing building up here. And it's going to help us to bypass a lot of that deep mud that goes around that corner. Should speed it up quite a bit. I was trying to think of an American truck that I could use for this, and the only one that really came to my mind was the A&K Civilian with its bigger balloon tires, but it doesn't have the option to use a mini crane with it. And we're going to need that on this trip. So I decided to just take the Taiga. Like I said, it is quite a bit more powerful, but it's still going to struggle through here. And I have done this with the Royal before, and it takes a really, really long time. You have to winch your way through everything. I also considered bringing the Paystar into the garage and putting a low saddle on that and some mud tires, but the Paystar struggles quite a bit with engine power when you're pulling a 5-slot trailer that's weighted down like this. And in the end, I just decided it's probably going to be the same effect as the Royal. We just don't have a lot of American options for terrain like this. Okay, we finally made it down here. We'll get this remaining stuff turned in. And now we need to load up 2 cabins. So we'll head back over by the railway station, get those loaded up, and we'll bring them up to the cabin zone 1, which is pretty much right up here by the ore sorting center. In Big Salmon Peak, we moved the cabins back and forth from one zone to the other because they were all located pretty much right around each other. But in Flooded Foothills, they're spaced quite a ways apart from each other, and so I'd rather just leave them where we dropped them off and not have to make a second trip over there. Okay, I'll admit the Taiga is kind of OP when it's running down these tracks like this. But it does have a lot more stability. And you know me, when I get closer to the end of the region, I kind of start flooring it a lot more. I just get excited to get it done. Now that we're loaded up, we can turn around and head back the way we just came. We're going to follow the tracks all the way over there. You know, even though Yukon is considered a big region that gets really sluggish, I have to admit, I feel like it has gone easier and quicker than even regions like Taymyr, which felt like it took forever. I do really enjoy Yukon. I'm gonna miss it when we're done, which is coming up soon. Yeah, this truck handles this stuff a little too well. But sometimes it's nice to just kick it down and get there. Alright, this time we're going to have to go past the ore sorting center, so we'll drive through this deep muddy stuff again. We'll head up the road a little ways and then we're going to have to turn left and cross the river. It really got slowed down through here though. Once you get to the wooden bridge, you know you're getting close. Just on the other side of it, we can take a left around this electrical pole. And when you're crossing the river here, I always try to stay on the left side There's some really big boulders in here, no matter where you drive. But I've always had more luck if I stay to the left, because it puts me in range of being able to winch to that tree once I get to the other edge of it. We made it across. Now we just got to turn these things in. The Russian mini crane has a little bit more of a hard time getting them up to the top. It's not quite as long or powerful. So like I was saying in Kola, I usually just try to get the tip of the crane as close to the attachment point as possible, and then I lift straight up as high as I can before I turn. You'll probably need to use the crane to push it up there, just to get it that extra distance. This will be the last time that we work with the cabins, so once these are up there, we're done for the rest of the region. Just a little extra push. And there it is. Stage 1 of the ore sorting center is now complete, and as you can see, we've got a big grocery list of materials that need to be turned in again for stage 2. So make sure you come back on the next one when we take care of that and get this contract over with. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.